Good afternoon, respected Chair, distinguished scholars, faculty members, and fellow researchers. Today, I will be presenting my research titled Algorithmic Gatekeeping and Digital Diplomacy, Constructing India's National Identity on X. In an era where diplomacy increasingly unfolds on digital platforms, social media has transformed not only how governments communicate, but also how nations are perceived globally. Traditionally, we used to see that diplomacy operated through embassies, diplomatic communications, and conventional media channels. However, today platforms such as X have become a central space where the states communicate directly. For example, whenever we are seeing that the ministers are taking oath, directly we are going to the X platform to find out the portfolios, if it is communicated by the state directly. So governments now no longer depend entirely on journalists or media organizations to disseminate their messages. Now, the important question emerges that are all the state messages equally visible online? Through my research, I have found the answer is no. Digital visibility is not neutral. It is mediated by the proprietary platform algorithms. The algorithms determine which messages would be amplified and which messages would be silenced to the target audience. Now, this observation basically forms the central premises of my study. India's online national identity is definitely not solely constructed by the state. Rather, it is co-produced by interaction between governmental communication and algorithmic systems of the platform. Moving to my problem statement. Existing scholarship on digital diplomacy has made significant contributions in understanding how government use social media for public diplomacy. Researchers have extensively examined how diplomatic practices have migrated into digital spaces. However, very little attention has been paid to the role of platform governance and algorithmic infrastructure. Because while governments create online content, the platform, the algorithm of the platform actually determines the visibility of the content. This research addresses that gap. So based on this research objectives, I have three research questions. The first one is, how is India's national identity narrative framed by I have taken two X handles. One is PMO handle that has a massive followers, and the other one is Ministry of External Affairs handle, MEA, that is named as MEA India. My second question is, which narratives receive disproportionately higher organic user engagement and visibility? And the third question is, how do the gatekeeping mechanisms actually reshape the digital projection? Now, if I talk about the theoretical framework, as I am a media studies student, these study cannot be done without the first pillar, that is gatekeeping theory. Traditionally, gatekeeping theory referred to the process through which the editors, the media institutions, they filter the information before it reaches the audience. In this platform era, algorithms increasingly perform the gatekeeping function. The second pillar of my research is agenda setting theory. This theory suggests that issues receiving higher visibility become more prominent in public discussion. The issues which are not getting visibility in online space is also getting somehow silenced in the public discussion. And the third pillar of my research is digital diplomacy and nation branding theory. This helps to explain how states strategically communicate, project identities, and build reputational capital through digital platforms. Now, by combining this perspective, I have investigated the narrative production and the narrative visibility. This is the integrated conceptual model, which I have created using AI. Now, coming to my methodology part, I have stated that I have taken two formerly Twitter or X handle. Now, if I go to the sample size, both the handles, I have taken the time frame of 1 year, and both the handles have shared more than 3,000 tweets in this 1 year. I have used a purposive sampling method and have taken 120 and 120 sample from each of the Twitter posts based on the highest engagement, the lowest engagement, and the medium engagement. So within this 240 tweets, I have done the qualitative analysis following the Brown and Clark thematic analysis methodology. The key theme that we have found, the EMEA India handle have these 5 key themes, whereas the PMO handle, they have these 6 key themes. All the tweets were about, the highest engagement tweets were about the sovereign, self-confident nation state. The crisis statement, the tweets about Pakistan-related communication, the tweets about China-related communication, and high-profile geopolitical events got the highest engagement. If we go to the algorithmic gatekeeping and the visibility narrative, the algorithmic bias, which the engagement has been low in routine diplomatic meetings, the bureaucratic updates, and all other administrative updates. So if I do the comparative analysis, we will see that the PMO handle actually constructing the national Indian identity through a leadership and leadership-centered narrative, whereas the MEA is performing the institutional diplomacy. Now, moving to the findings and the conclusion, the central statement that I have found that basically the multidimensional identity of India has been projected by Ministry of External Affairs, but the PMO handle has projected India as a sovereign, assertive, and leadership-centric role. What would be the main suggestion of this? Theoretically, actually, this study extends the classical gatekeeping theory into the age of platform governance. Empirically, it contributes to the growing literature on digital diplomacy. And finally, practically, the findings suggest that the policymakers and diplomatic institutions must consider not only what they communicate, but also how platform architecture shape the visibility. So, national identity in digital space is no longer constructed exclusively by states, but by the platform algorithms. Thank you so much for your attention. Looking forward to Sir's comment on my research. Thank you, sir.
Hello. Good afternoon to all present here today. Today we'll be presenting our paper titled Platform Visibility and Cultural Inequality, Pottochitro as a Folk Communication Practice on YouTube. So, Pottochitra is a traditional scroll painting and storytelling practice of rural West Bengal. Traditionally, Potua artists communicate social, religious, and cultural narratives through painted scrolls accompanied by songs. This unique art form functioned not only as artistic expression, but also as a medium of communication and cultural transmission. With the growth of digital media, YouTube has emerged as an important platform for documenting and sharing folk traditions. Digital platforms provide opportunities for cultural preservation and wider audience reach. However, they also influence how traditions are represented, circulated, and consumed. Therefore, our study examines how Pottochitra is represented on YouTube and explores how platforms structures influence its visibility in the digital environment. Moving on to the next slide, I would like to briefly discuss our objectives of the study. Number one, how Pottochitra is represented on YouTube. Number two, to compare YouTube videos created by Potua artists with videos produced by organization and other creators. Number three, to examine how digital platforms influence the circulation of folk cultural practices. And number four, to explore issues of representation and visibility in the digital environment. Now moving on to the next slide, our methodology. Our research follows a qualitative approach. Our research area is YouTube, focusing on Pottochitra related content from West Bengal. We have watched and selected 15 YouTube videos through purposive sampling. The dataset includes video titles, descriptions, views, likes, and comments. To analyze the data, we have used thematic analysis. This helped to identify recurring patterns and themes related to presentation, visibility, storytelling, and digital circulation. Over to you, Atri.
Thank you, Mohima. Now, these are some Pottochitra made by West Bengal's Potua artists. And now moving on to the next slide, the themes which we found out from the analysis are, the first theme is platformization of folk culture, which examines how YouTube transforms Pottochitra into digital content and shapes its circulation through platform mechanisms. The second one is cultural representation and storytelling, which focuses on communication of traditional narratives through scroll paintings and songs. The third theme is digital visibility, which explores how YouTube expands the reach of Pottochitra beyond local communities. The fourth theme is audiovisual mediation, which highlights the role of visuals, sound, editing, and production quality, which shapes audience engagement. And lastly, the fifth theme is language and accessibility, which examines how language influences both cultural authenticity and audience access to the content. Now moving on to the next slide. Here are our key findings. So majorly, one important finding is that the traditional elements of Pottochitra, including scroll paintings and songs, remain central in digital representations. The videos continue to preserve both the artistic and communicative functions of the tradition. Another major function is that the YouTube significantly increases the visibility of Pottochitra beyond its local and cultural context. The platform enables folk traditions to reach national and global audiences. The study also found that audiovisual quality plays a crucial role in audience engagement. High quality visuals, sound, and editing make content more accessible and help viewers and audience better understand the cultural significance of Pottochitra. Language emerged as another significant factor, where Bengali remains the dominant language of storytelling and performance, helping maintain the cultural authenticity while also influencing accessibility for wider audiences. Finally, the analysis revealed that Pottochitro is increasingly being transformed from a community-based performance into a digital cultural product circulated through online platforms. And moving on to the next slide, here are some Pottochitro performances. So, first one is this. This is a video, yes. So this is made by an organization. This is a documentary of an artist, a photo artist. So moving on to this video, we can see the representation of the scroll paintings and the songs they like sing with the Pottochitro. And this is a video the Potua artist made. So yes, and the conclusion, moving on to the next slide. So to conclude, YouTube plays a significant role in sustaining and promoting Pottochitro in the digital era. The platform enhances the visibility and accessibility while helping document and preserve traditional cultural practices. At the same time, visibility is shaped by platform structures, production techniques, and audience engagement mechanisms. The study highlights that digital platforms are not neutral spaces. They actively influence how folk cultures are represented, circulated, and understood. Overall, YouTube has become an important space where preservation, promotion, and digital transformation come together to shape the future visibility of Pottochitro. Thank you. If you have any queries, please contact us, and if you have any questions, you can ask. Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Respected Chair, I am Shomi Ranchaudhary, presenting the paper on a systematic study on the role of the social media on women empowerment. Okay. Okay. May I audible? Thank you, sir. Okay. As Article 14, there is a right to equality, and Article 15, prohibition of discrimination of Indian Constitution guarantees empowerment of women in India. Several policies are aimed for their advancement since the inception of the 5-year plans. The Government of India generated national policy which aimed at women's advancement long back, while from fifth 5-year plans, it was shifted from the motto of welfare to advancement. Henceforth, the National Commission for Women, established by the Act of Parliament in 1990, the issue of women attaining advancement towards equality is well acclaimed. Empowering women is just not the processing issue, and in current scenario in India, due to their role in the nation building and the social stability, which also thrives on growth, development, and betterment. So my objective of study is to understand the flow of the social research for last few decades relating to the issue of women empowerment, to emancipate the idea of women empowerment from gender studies, to evaluate the impact of women empowerment over the decades in the field of research, to examine whether social media plays the role of catalyst in the process of women empowerment, to establish the tendency observed in the arena of social research relating to the women empowerment. And now the research questions are there, that how much improvement is given to women empowerment in the field of social research? Number one, if inclusion of the social media can give impetus to the issue of women empowerment, what is the present status of research relating to women empowerment? I have some brief literature review here, but I will stick on a point that according to the Paul Levinson, who first came to the idea of social media, he also named it he also denounced the possibility of the social media to be named as new media. According to him, every media has some social impact and utility, so only termed as social media, the new technology and its possibility should not be undermined. Thus, to define social media, most fitting definition is given by Nicole Ilson, will define social network sites as web-based service that allows individual to construct a public or semi-public profile within a broadened system, articulate a list of other users with whom they share a connection, and view and traverse that list of connection and those made by other within the system. The nature and nomenclature of those connection may vary from site to site. There is another literature review. I'll just brief the 3 point over here also. Yes, the major, I will just concentrate on the 3 point here. That is, the major benefit of using social media in e-governments can be summarized in 3 benefits. First is the transparency, which is to release the information that stakeholders are always checking for. Second, participation to maintain citizen engaged with their government by allowing citizens to express their opinion, expressions, wisdom. Government can use a survey to get feedback from citizens before any decision is taken, then pass this information to different government agencies for action to be taken. And the third is collaboration, that is the high level of engagement between government and citizen, where citizen participation by creating the content for government topics, and the government use and flow of the content generated by the citizen to fulfill government mission. This way, more time is served, and thus cost and effort for the government is also decreased. And the methodology. The systematic literature review was undertaken to develop a detailed structured history of the how women empowerment research or the participation and the leadership and the communication has changed over the time. A rigorous analysis of the literature will be achieved through the use of the 2 framework. One is the TCCM theory, that's the theory context characteristics methodology, and the ADO framework, that is antecedent decision outcome. By using both analytical perspective, the SLR represents the intellectual evolution of this area of study from 1999 through 2024 by indicating how research has changed, major trends that are emerging, and identifying important research gaps requiring more scholarly research. First, the publication trend. The 1999 to 2000, the period of research from 1991 through 2000 is considered to be the initial phase of academic exploration into women empowerment, collective action, leadership in organization run by women, and the communication avenues for women. Much of the research published during this time focused mainly on the structural inequalities, feminist, collective action, and women's access to participatory spaces. Because there was so little research produced at this time, it was also not common to find significant testing for formal models or large-scale emancipation validation for the concept related to the women empowerment. According to TCCM and ADO framework, this decade can be considered a normative and conceptual phase of the literature noted above. The studies produced during this decade were from a theoretical standpoint rooted mainly in the feminist theory, empowering theory, participatory development, and argument for the public sphere. Then from 2001 to 2020. Okay. This decade between 2001 and 2010 marked as important transitional moment in the knowledge base about how women are empowered, participate, and communicate. These scholars believe that this institution, community involvement, leadership, and access to the media influence the agency and social inclusion of women. They did mention how programs should cater to women, yes, but not regarding what are the practical steps towards women empowerment. But it has moved beyond portraying empowerment as an ideological construct to projecting it something that is multidimensional in nature, and the publication pattern shows which the research output is increasing at a slow rate over time, suggesting that the topic was gaining academic relevance. Then 2011 to 2020, From 2011 to 2020, literature went through a growth phase before becoming diverse. The literature from this decade has until recently largely contributed to conceptual bursts on the issue of empowerment, participation and institutional inclusion. Moving on, the engage freshly with digital communication, ICT enabled agency, women empowerment, social media participation, political representation, public health and media visibility. Through TCCM and EDO optics, this decade seems to be embody thematic elaboration with the changing methodologies. Conceptually, literature drew a feminist theory, participative empowerment, capability thinking, communicative agency in the developing countries. Now the last trend, that is 2020 and 2024. This period following the 2021 marks the most rapidly evolving recent study of women participation, empowerment, leadership, digital communication. In this period, the studies have expanded the scope and methodological sophistication considerably in relation to the previous couple of decades. The literature continues to refine, improve itself with the overchanging category of technologically, globally, digital governments. Now, the last conclusion I'm drawing here, that is a comprehensive analysis of the literature has shown a definite trend towards evolution of the academic discussion around the women empowerment, participation, engagement, governance, leadership and communication over the last 30 years. Research from earlier decades has focused primarily on the theoretical concept. These are based largely on the feminist philosophies and structural inequality perspective. Therefore, empirical studies that consider how women are empowered will have been added progressively over the past 2 decades. The use of TCCM and EDU framework reveals an evolution in the literature from a primarily theoretical focus to a wider range of multimodal and multi-perspectival scholarly research that examines this way in which the empowerment is understood to be the continuous developing process and is influenced by structural factors, institutional opportunities and technological environment. There is some limitation of the studies. You can read it, or rather, I'm just giving a one-liner. A lack of longitudinal studies is there. The lack of cross-context comparison also are there, which can be developed in the further references. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anisha Ray, and I will be presenting a short presentation on my paper, the topic of which is Filtered Inequality, Gendered Algorithmic Bias, and Marginalization on Instagram. To start off with the context of the study, the background of which primarily focuses on 3 aspects, the culmination of which results in social media platforms and its resulting social sphere accordance in current times, which means that Instagram in today's day and time is not just a platform that is recreational in nature, but is also a platform that is catering to other psychological needs of a human, especially a particular target audience, which has to do with information seeking, network building, and recreational and validation aspect of a social being. The myth of neutrality, which is often viewed as neutral and efficient, is basically an algorithmic system that is deeply embedded in existing social hierarchies that exists among the social spheres and the prejudice that comes with the social spheres. The amplification of inequality, which primarily talks about the topic in hand today, which talks about marginalization in context to gender viewing and gender stereotypes, as in how it is portrayed through social media platforms, primarily narrowed down through and how in accordance to Instagram as a platform in general. Digital evolution, the social media platforms have transitioned into critical hubs for communication, visibility, and economical participations, therefore emphasizing on the growth and the understanding and the research that needs to be done on social media platform, especially in accordance to the target audience of the millennials and the Gen Zs in question. Algorithmic curation, which talks about Instagram, utilizes how algorithmic echo chambers to its own benefit to sell capitalism and sell the propaganda camouflaged under the name of capitalism. Moving to the understanding of the problem in context to the study, it basically deals with 4 problems in hand under the research subject. The reinforcement of disparity, despite offering opportunities for self-expression, Instagram's mechanism may reinforce rather than mitigate gender-based disparities. Data-rooted bias, which talks about the algorithmic bias stepping from socially conditioned and unequal data, systematically marginalizing women and gender minorities in question. Third is curation versus diversity, which talks about content curation and moderation practices, prioritizing commercially viable and stereotypical representation and how catering to the capitalism in general. And lastly, suppression of narratives, which talks about non-conforming or critical gender narratives, which often face limited visibility as compared to other traditional forms of visible parameters, as in how when it's seen on Instagram as a platform. Moving on to research objectives in accordance to this paper, I'll quickly go through the understanding of visibility analysis, which is talking basically about examining how algorithmic systems contribute to gender-biased inequality. Data and stereotypes, which is talking about the analyzing of the linking between the data inequality and the reinforcement of stereotypical gender representation. Digital labor, which talks about investigating how algorithmic preferences impact digital labor, specifically in context to influencer culture, because this paper has been highlighting from the perspective of Instagram as a platform. And lastly, fairness frameworks, which talks about exploring potential inclusivity and intersectional approaches for achieving algorithmic fairness. The research questions in hand are broadly and generically 4. How do Instagram's algorithm systematically disadvantage women and gender minorities in terms of visibility? In what ways do platform moderation and curation practices prioritize stereotypical feminine representation? What are the impact of algorithmic opacity on the digital labor of influencers and content creators? How can platform governance be restructured to incorporate intersectional perspectives and ensure fairness in the visibility parameter? The literature part of my paper has been divided into 4 categories. The 4 categories are feminist media studies perspective, as in how I've included the definition of feminism in context to my paper, the algorithmic bias and what is the definition of it in accordance to dictionary framework, the digital labor and influencer culture to correlate it better to the understanding of Instagram as a platform, and platform governance to establish the growth parameter of Instagram as a platform. The methodology that I have implemented in the paper is mostly quantitative, which is a user-based study to understand from the perspective of the users, which is the Gen Zs and the millennials in question. The critical discourse analysis is the second tier of the research methodology, which is not the first tier, but I have tried to understand the platform and the functioning of the platform in general, and it's mostly from the observation of a researcher. Secondary data review is not exactly a part of the methodology, but has been used in instances to basically amplify the understanding and the credibility of the paper. The key findings of the paper are mostly to do with understanding of the norm penalty. The algorithm disproportionately rewards content alignment with narrow stereotypical beauty standards, as in how is bought under the name of feminism and is being sold in a camouflage form of capitalism through Instagram as a platform. The intersectional marginalization that talks about women from intersectional backgrounds face heightened pressure to conform to algorithmic norms, basically to have better engagement. That is a very crucial part of staying relevant on the platform via the platform as a content creator. The third is the shadow effect, which talks about the feminist discourse and social critique that often suffer from reduced reach due to inconsistent and opaque moderation practices that exist when there is no hierarchy or filtration of sorts in the course of content curation and deliverance that occurs through Instagram as a platform. And lastly, the commodification of identity, that is a very prominent part, because the platform has an incentive that it gets from the commodification of what needs to be sold in the name of content, and yet glamorizing the engagement parameter of it in the name of women feminist discourse. On that note, I would like to end with the discussion that beyond technical fixes lies the achieving fairness that is required to make structural changes in the way the platform is handled and the way the design of the platform can be handled. There needs to be transparency and inclusion. There is an urgent need for greater transparency and the inclusion of marginalized voices in decision making. Summary of the impact: current digital ecosystem reinforce gender inequality through biased curation and moderation. And lastly, there needs to be a future outlook which has been incorporated in the paper in the future scope of study, focusing on fostering an equitable digital environment that depends on addressing both the technical and socio-cultural dimensions of algorithmic bias and echo chambers. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon to all of you. It's a really fascinating, interesting, and thought-provoking session today. Just we went through. The topic is very interesting, little intricate, very heavy, but very relevant at this crucial juncture. The main theme was knowledge and the politics of digital visibility. I would like to say something before I go for further analysis and synthesis of this particular session. One of my research articles recently published in one of the leading international Polish journal about the same topic. So that's why when they offered me, I was very busy today, but still I accepted that invitation because it's completely relevant with my research article. What is knowledge and the politics of digital visibility? First of all, the politics of digital visibility dictates that whoever controls algorithm curation controls what society accepts as valid knowledge. Far from being an objective or neutral space, the internet operates or curated regimes of visibility where platform architectures determine which voices, events, and narratives are amplified and which are structurally suppressed. One is the amplification and the next one is suppression. This interaction of digital visibility and knowledge production represents a profound shift in how power, authority, and public truth are negotiated. I repeat, how power, authority, and public truth are negotiated. Now, the most crucial part is how you deal with the algorithm. The algorithmic curating of knowledge. First is algorithmic censorship, number one. Number two is hyper visibility versus eraser. I'm not going for details because the session is over. I have to go for a panel one from 4:30. Next is epistemic injustice. And the next part is, while marginal groups historically fought for greater visibility to gain social and political recognition, in many of your topics, like the first topic you dealt about the Toto community, right? Please sit. So, while marginal groups historically fought for greater visibility to gain social and political recognition, the digital sphere has subverted this dynamic. Another topic dealt with Potochitro through YouTube. Exactly, proliferation of this kind of traditional, rich folk culture of our country through digital platforms, which plays a very significant role. And the lastly is digital counter conduct and subversion, which is repurposing legacy spaces and sensory metaphors. So these are the main nutshell about this knowledge and the politics of digital visibility. Now, 6 papers I went through right now, very interesting and diversified. First is from Shujata Khawas, right? Your topic was about the Toto tribe knowledge production. Extremely good presentation, very good, very relevant subject. But one thing I would like to mention, that you have dealt about this Toto community. If I ask questions in this house right now, how much knowledge do you have about the Toto community? You need to mention this. Can you please tell me what is the Toto community in India? Where it is located, where they are located? Yes, more specific? Rest of the researchers? That means once you are doing a research, you need to give about the community a little bit. Because it cannot be, you cannot think that all people know about this community. It's a very small, world's smallest and most isolated indigenous communities found exclusively in Totopara, which you mentioned in Totopara. But where Totopara is located? Can you tell me? It's a general knowledge question. It's in West Bengal's Alipurduar. It's located only in Alipurduar. So once you'll be talking about the research, you need to little bit of explain about that particular community, because everybody is not a big researcher. And India is a big country. There are so many caste, creed, and community. Okay. Otherwise, it was a fantastic presentation, and I really like about, because you have extracted about a community which is marginalized, but very much in terms of this indigenous community. They are on the verge of extinction. It is time to preserve this community. Okay. The next was about Ritoban's topic about AI. Very interesting, very relevant, and very pertinent. Especially you dealt about the Bengali newsroom. I am not going to the nitty-gritties of this. Ritoban, can you please tell me what are the particular areas of the newsroom which is facing the biggest ever threat for AI? Absolutely. Correct. Very good. Please be seated. So there are 3 or 4 vulnerable areas, especially in the Bengali newsroom. First is the graphic design and 3D modeling. Very much. Right. And as well as voiceover and sound editing also in sometimes. Yes, absolutely. But definitely AI is, in a large extent, is a blessings in disguise. In economics, one is called monopoly, one is called duopoly, one is called oligopoly. Monopoly means only one provider, right? If there is only one provider, there is no scope of any high rise. But if there is a perfect competition, that means at this point of time, the newsroom, the media houses are competing with the AI. So if there is a perfect competition is going on between the technology and the humankind, so definitely the expertise will excel more. Yes, please. True, understood. But the core thing is coming in 2 answers. One is survival of the fittest, and number 2 is, I think you must be going through, it was a very interesting piece of our class 12 prose, Technology for Mankind by Jacob Brodowski. Man has won his dominant position in this planet by his command of technology. So you need to control the algorithm in that way. Then and only then you will be able to cope up the situation. But definitely, see, corporates are ruthless to an extent. The biggest ever advantage for AI is cost effectiveness in production. So once the question of cost effectiveness in production will come, definitely if you are not that kind of efficient, so definitely you might be in trouble. So this is reality. Very good topic and well presented. The next one is by Ankita Bhattacharya, algorithmic gatekeeping and digital diplomacy. Very, very interesting topic. You dealt about the 2 things. One is PMO office and one is Ministry of External Affairs. Can you please brief this little bit more? But what is your exact findings between the comparative study with the PMO X handle and the MEA one? Okay. Okay, great. What are the challenges you found? Okay. What was the sample size? Like how many tweets? It's a simple random or stratified or cluster sample? Okay. Lowest engagement. At the median one. Great. Your topic is very interesting. So are you thinking of doing it further? Your PhD? Very good topic. Very interesting topic. Very, very interesting. Thank you so much. Please go ahead. The next one was about, it was by Atri Ganguly and Mohima Goswami, Platform Visibility and Cultural Inequality. Was the presenter? So tell me your findings exactly. Final in nutshell. Okay. Great, very interesting topic. What about the literature review? Did you get any research article or anything, any such thing pertaining to Pottuchitro, any previous research? Anyone did this previously? Right. Okay. There are two impediments in there in kind of research. One is called the digital displacement. Like once you are putting something in the YouTube, there is a high possibility of its digital displacement. Like for your sake, you are proliferating this, but somebody can delete this at any point of time. There is no control. Number one is the labor of visibility. The labor of visibility, for instance, if you start doing for the metropolitan cities, because your main intention is to popularize this folk culture within the cosmopolitan areas and across the globe also. Now the thing is that there is a big component of doing a kind of marketing to do this also, to implementation. Because only research will not suffice, because you need to aware the public that this Pottuchitro is available on YouTube. This part please include in your research, because marketing part, otherwise the people don't know that Pottuchitro is available. If we go for Yatra, Nautanki, Rashlila, this kind of very interesting and a very rich heritage folk culture, we need to popularize this through marketing strategy also. So there should be a chapter to be included in your research project, that how to aware the public through different digital marketing tools that Pottuchitro is available on digital platforms. Okay, this is my observation. And the last one, then the Shomi Roy Chaudhuri, she dealt with economic empowerment. Your topic was social media and women empowerment. Very interesting topic. Very research, I think you went through very research, previous research work also. And My suggestion, it's a very good detailed paper. My suggestion is please include one particular chapter of economic empowerment. Like social is a macro one, right? Everything comes under social. But especially for women empowerment in this subcontinent and in a country like India, the economic empowerment is extremely important for women in our country. If economic empowerment is glorified, definitely it will automatically be a positive factor for social. Like direct to consumer, D2C brands, creative and service sectors, community builders. You can include this. Next is digital activism and awareness, like how the campaigns can be done, different campaigns, social media campaigns as well as digital campaigns. Through this, women empowerment awareness can be spread across the society. And there are some challenges are there. First is challenge of digital divide. There is a problem of digital divide. So, very good topic, but please include this in your research. That will definitely help you to make it much more effective. The last topic is very, very interesting. All the topics are interesting. It's very, this session is really comprising of very interesting topics. I really appreciate your selection of topics, from Toto community to comparative study between X in the ABE and PMO. Then the Odisha's topic is also very interesting: filtered inequality, gendered algorithmic bias and marginalization on Instagram. I have some suggestions. You have done really good. All of them really presented well. One is, please include the authenticity bind and aesthetic censorship. The authenticity bind and aesthetic censorship is very, very important, especially once you are dealing with this Instagram, aesthetic censorship. Next is amplification of harmful recommender systems. There are some beyond outright censorship for you, and explore page algorithms naturally favor high engagement. I repeat, it's a very technical thing in Instagram. Once you are dealing with recommender systems have been shown to amplify extreme content, often feeding young users a pipeline of hyper and highly rigid gender tropes, because these topics generate strong, albeit toxic interactions. So definitely, please, I'll be sharing with you the slides. Amplifications of harmful recommended systems and whitewashed and whitened curation. Whitewashed and whitened curation. These visual feeds generated by algorithms are culturally biased. For example, once you are dealing, I'm just giving a very simple example. If West Indies beats India, what a journalist used to write: if there are 3 test matches and all the test matches being won by the West Indies against India, it is called blackwash. If it is a reverse one, if there is a fight between India and Pakistan, rubber and India wins, it is called brownwash. And when the British and the Australian are defeating the Indians, it is called the whitewash. So this kind of sensitive words are very, very interesting, and you need to include, these are the latest terms being used on this digital platform, which is called whitewashed and whitened curation. So you'll be finding this kind of content also while dealing with your topic. So thank you so much for your brilliant presentation, and I really find the topics are extremely important and very, very interesting. Thank you so much for your brilliant presentation. Please go ahead with your research. Thank you so much. All the best for your further research. You all can go ahead with your research, but I really like all topics, but both topic টা আমার কাছে খুব ইন্টারেস্টিং লেগেছে এক্সেলি। বাকিগুলো সবগুলোই ভালো, সবকটাই খুব ভালো, বাট ওটা খুব নিশ। হ্যাঁ, মানে এমনি এটা নিয়ে কি করেছে সেটা নিয়ে খুব মুশকিল। বিকজ এবার হাজার টুইক আসবে, বিকজ ম্যান্ডেটরি ফটোগ্রাফস।